A top four as stacked as any division in hockey. It's the Central Division Contenders Roundtable, and the discussion, like the division, could get spicy.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network's 2024 NHL Season Preview. Your team every day.
Welcome to the 2024 Locked On NHL Season Preview. In this episode, we are going to be breaking down the best of the Central Division. I'm Ann Kimmel from Locked On Predators, and today I am joined by Chris Micieli of Locked On Avalanche. We have Harrison Lee from Locked On Jets and Joey Erickson from Locked On Stars. We are here to talk about the top contenders in the Central Division. We're going to predict who's going to win a competitive Central, if any of these four teams could fall into the bottom half of the division, and we're going to tell you the one thing that could derail the season for everyone. Before we dive into all of that discussion, want to let you know today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. All right, frenemies, we have gathered to talk about what is coming up. And this is going to be a really competitive Central Division. I think the Central is the division a lot of people in the NHL are going to keep their eye on. And let's just get to the big question first. Let's talk about who is going to finish in that all-important top spot. And actually, Joey, I want to start with you. Dallas Stars wrapped up the last regular season, 113 points, best points total in the Western Conference. Are the Stars going to be able to repeat that at the top of this Central Division next season?
Man, first off, I'm just happy the Stars are considered contenders. There was a decade there where they were just kind of, inching their way into the playoffs each season. And now they've started to find a nice young core and they're starting to build around that. I'm pretty bullish on the Stars' chances to repeat in the Central for a few reasons. They're bringing back a lot of bodies they did last season. And I think you're only going to get improvement from guys like Wyatt Johnston, who had a huge breakout season this past year. Jason Robertson is still there. Rope Hintz, you have a solid top line. The back end, I still have some concerns about. I guess my one reservation would be, can you repeat what you did last season? Because that was the second best regular season in franchise history for the Stars. And I don't care how good you are, that's still really tough to repeat on a year in and year out basis. So they're able to do that. But the other key reason is Pete DeBoer likes to win the division. He made no mistake about it at the end of last season. He's like, we want to win it. Like, we want to try to win the President's Trophy. And they wanted home ice advantage, albeit they don't do much with the home ice advantage. They've lost 5 game ones under Pete DeBoer, but they like to go get home ice. So I think that's will play into them possibly repeating. But it'll be a tough contest because, of course, yourself and the Preds, they've gotten a lot better. Avalanche are going to be the Avalanche, and the Jets are always lurking as well. So it's such a good division, and man, Dallas will have their work cut out for them.
I love that the Avalanche are going to avalanche. Chris, are the Avalanche going to avalanche themselves past the Stars in the Central? And if Colorado doesn't take the top spot, who is going to take the top in the Central?
Well, first of all, I'm really jealous of the three of you because you know what your roster looks like. And the Avalanche have just two massive outliers that we don't know 100% what's going to happen with them, with Gabe Landeskog and Valachuskin, right? So even without that, they're clearly contenders, right? When you have Cale Makar, when you have Nathan MacKinnon, when you have Mikko Rantanen, you're going to be in the mix. Joey said, Pete DeBoer plays for that first spot and plays for that President's Trophy. I'm not saying the Avalanche don't do that, but I think the Avs have taken the mindset of, yeah, we know we have skill. We know we're a good team, but it's almost like that Tampa Bay Lightning mindset of just get in the playoffs and we can be dangerous in the playoffs. So I think that's where more of their head is at, of just play the season out. We'll be towards the top of the division, or at least we should be. If we get Gabe Landeskog and Valachuskin back, which both of them should, like Kyle and I have talked about it many times. Like we're expecting both of them to come back. Can the Avalanche win the division? Yes, with an asterisk, but I do think this is still Dallas's to lose. But it's still going to be close at the top of the division, like it is every single year in every division.
Yeah. Harrison, where do you think Winnipeg is going to fall, and why are they constantly treated like the middle child of the Central Division and overlooked?
Easy answer. We don't have an airport in Winnipeg, so I assume that's why. I think Winnipeg is like one of those teams that everyone sort of forgets, which is fine. I mean, it is what it is. I think a lot of us have sort of accepted that the Jets they're not the sexiest name. And you know, they don't get the big free agents like Stamkos, or they don't tend to draft top talents like Robertson or Makar. You know, all the biggest names go elsewhere. So that leaves the Jets in a weird spot. And I think this year, it's funny that Chris mentioned, being jealous of knowing what our roster looks like. And kind of, I'll say that the Jets actually maybe have even more questions at some level because, Ehlers, their top winger, is perhaps being shopped on the trade block. We don't have a second line center. The current plan is Vlad Nemesnikov. So that probably tells you that our depth is not looking great. We had, it's funny that I think we had a conversation right before everyone joined about, folks not really caring about preseason tournaments and stuff. For the Jets fans, it's actually been probably a little more salient than it's been in years past. Brad Lambert and guys like that are certainly on the up and up. But I think for the Jets, the name of the game this year is uncertainty. I think this team has intrigue and potential. We're not going to be fighting for the top. That's for sure. I think the Jets are comfortably in I guess you could say a wild card spot if you're in the Central and you assume the Central takes either the top or both wild card spots. That's probably where I have the Jets. I think that they're a good team. I think that they're going to take a step back this year. I think Arniel, the new head coach, has some interesting directional changes that he wants to make. But I think whether that turns into something on the ice is still a big question. I mean, it's one thing to talk the talk, but then you actually have to walk the walk. And well, I guess in this case, it's skate the skate. But I think for the Jets, it's going to be a weird year. I think this year is going to take a step back, but hopefully with the knowledge that it's a year of growth and progress for the future.
When you're talking about a year of growth and progress, it makes me think of the Nashville Predators, because y'all, at the end of last season, had, you said, hey, we're going to record this episode with contenders, I would have been like the 8th runner-up at Miss Universe. Like, I'm just so happy to be here. But a lot changed for the Predators, and we had a very fun offseason. Now, having said that, I have to be real and say that, Nashville, we're not going to take the top of the Central Division. If this was any other division, I think that I would lean into what Nashville could do a little heavier. But when you've got Colorado, when you've got Dallas, and you guys just can't screw up enough to give another team in the Central a chance to really battle for that top spot, this may not be the year that Nashville, beats anybody out and takes the top spot in the Central, but we are here to make it very interesting for you all after the offseason, and absolutely cannot wait. So that's our take on how the Central is going to shake up. Let's take a look and see what FanDuel thinks about how these 4 teams are likely to perform next season. These are the points over unders according to FanDuel Sportsbook. We have the Avalanche in the top spot, 104.5 points, followed by the Dallas Stars, 103.5. The Nashville Predators, 98.5 points, and the Winnipeg Jets at 94.5. So let's talk about how the numbers feel here. And do you think FanDuel has this right? Harrison, did they get you all right?
That one, you probably saw my expression, was a little bit pained. I have a hard time disagreeing with the notable step back, but the big equalizer every year has been Hellebuyck. That guy is just like, if you could imagine one human being like a physical like flotation device for an NHL team, Hellebuyck is probably like the biggest floor raiser in the league. Sometimes it's actually been a bad thing because like he has kind of gotten us to the playoffs when maybe we shouldn't have gotten there.
But we can relate.
Yeah. Yeah. Y'all know what happens when you have a good goalie streak. And he just does it every year. So 94 feels a touch on the low side, but like I think if you have like a confidence interval somewhere of like plus or minus 6 points, I think that's probably in the neighborhood. So where we're ranked on that list, I think is probably, it's fair, even if I don't want to admit it.
All right. Okay. Nashville at 98.5 points. Here's what I'm going to say about the numbers of it. Nashville finished last season with 99 points, and they had one scoring line. God bless them, everyone. They had one scoring line, gotten more scoring coming in, a little bit of a change on defense. We lost Ryan McDonough, but brought in Brady Shea. So I think, you don't lose too much defensively. You still have UC Saros. He's back for another 8 years. So I think if Nashville can get in the groove sooner than they did last season, I think they're going to do a little bit better than where FanDuel has them. Joey, what do you think? How do you feel about where FanDuel has you guys?
Yeah, if I was putting money on it, I would probably take the over, even though I do think Dallas may regress a little bit here in this next season. And one of the big reasons why is Jake Oettinger. I'm a big believer in him. I probably think higher of him than a lot of other Stars fans. And I did an episode on this over the summer, just taking a look at some of the best goalies really from my generation, like your Marc-Andre Fleury's and your Carey Prices of the world. And it seems like that fourth year, they have a huge increase in their numbers. They just jump to another level in terms of their play. And I think this could be the season for Jake Oettinger where he really locks it down in net. He came into last season with an injury and he got off to a slow start, really picked it up in that final about month and a half of the season, carried it into the playoffs. Is a full off season now. He's training differently. And I think he really locks it down. He gets to play a little more regular season games than he did last year. So I feel really comfortable about Dallas probably comfortably coming that over of 103.5 points or what it was.
Yeah. All right, Chris, how about you?
I think all these are low.
Yeah.
I did too. I thought the same thing. I thought, do you not know us? Have you not met us?
I mean, the Avs last year, 107 points and finished third. They haven't had 104 or the lowest. The last time they'd been in that area was 18-19, not including the COVID years when they had 90 points. So I think all these are low. I think I mean, if we want to say who's at the top, we kind of talked about that between the Avalanche and the Stars, they got to be in the 110 and up.
Win.
Yeah, right. I think they're all low. I'm terrible at betting, but I kind of feel like you put these numbers up and my they say bet with your head, not your heart. And I'm betting with my head on this of like, I got to put money down on all four of these teams to go over because I feel like you can. So yeah, I think it's kind of low. I think 104.5 for the Avs. I would take that all day long because I think they even with the two guys they were talking about, even if they don't play the entire season, I think the Avalanche get 104 points.
Yeah. Numbers, a lot goes into coming up with those. Another thing that goes into how successful a team is the offseason. Y'all, this is going to be one of my favorite things we're going to talk about today on this. We're going to tell you which offseason moves will make the biggest difference for our respective teams. We're also going to share who we see as being our team's breakout candidates. This special Central Division Contenders episode is brought to you by Game Time. If this hockey talk has you thinking about getting to an NHL game, or if you're just looking to make some fall memories at an upcoming event, you have got to check out Game Time. Game Time makes buying tickets to your favorite sports, concerts, theater, or comedy quick and easy. They have a new feature called Game Time Picks that filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time also gives you a view from your seat, and when you switch on the all-in pricing feature, you'll know exactly what you're paying for before you hit that checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your order. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. All right, friends, we know a good season starts with a good off season. So let's talk about what our teams did to get better before training camp even started. And we can also talk about how jealous you are to see Steven Stamkos in gold. Yeah, big offseason for Nashville here. We got Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault. Thank you, Joey Erickson, for Scott Wedgwood. He's actually going to be huge, I think, for the Predators. So here in Nashville, we are feeling real good about Barry Trotz and his wallet and his boldness in this offseason. I think it's going to be big. And for sure, I think our biggest impact player is going to be Stamkos. Here's what I will say. The biggest offseason decision the Predators made, though, was signing UC Saros to an extension. Because you do not get Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault to come to the Predators to try to win a cup in their twilight, quote unquote, twilight years if you do not have UC Saros in net. So while Stamkos is the biggest new toy in Nashville, I think signing UC Saros made all the difference for the Predators. So for us, keeping a guy around, biggest offseason move. Chris, when you look at Colorado, your offseason looked a little different than Nashville's.
Well, yeah, you were like,
for a good reason.
Well, I mean, you're like, we're jealous of Stamkos. I'm jealous of the money you guys had to spend because the Avs didn't do it. They didn't have it. We knew that, though. Like, we knew that was going to happen in this offseason. They just didn't. They have a lot of money tied up in their core, which is fine. That's what you want. And what the Avs have done the past few years is just plug holes where they have a guy that's gone. They'll go out and find someone low AAV, low term, and let's see what you can do for a year or two. And that's really what they did. And so that's kind of like a big question mark for the Avalanche. Do these guys work out? Because if they don't, you're kind of stuck. Yeah, you can make some trades here and there, and their prospects are not, I mean, they're like anybody else, like they're top prospects. You have a lot of expectation for them, but it dies out really quick after like your first 2 or 3 guys for the Avs. So they can't rely on that. But the guys that they brought in, I kind of like. I think one of the more low-key moves that they made, because it was only a 1 year, less than $1 million deal, was for Oliver Shillington from Calgary. So I think, I mean, he's going to be your, Harrison's nodding. Harrison knows. So I think, like, he's going to be your third pairing guy, which is fine, but he fits what they do defensively. Speedy guy, athletic guy, offensive minded guy, but he can play defense. So that was a big move for them, and keeping Jonathan Drouin for another year, and as well as Casey Middlestat. Both were unrestricted free agents, but yeah, it wasn't this big to do for the Avalanche in the offseason. It was expected. You plugged holes where you needed to, and now let's see if they work out for you.
It's exciting to spend a lot of money. Take it from me, watching Barry Trotz spend a lot of money. But if you spend your money wisely, it doesn't make any difference, because, you build a winning team in the end. So while our off seasons may look different, they're both hoping for the same outcome. Harrison, what was the biggest off season decision made for the Winnipeg Jets?
Well, we got a Jets themed neon snapback giveaway night coming up this year. That's probably our biggest acquisition.
Sign me up.
I'm gonna go to Winnipeg in the airport that doesn't exist just to get that.
I mean, like, look, this off season, I think in some ways similar to what the Avs were doing, which is keeping the guys that you needed to. Dylan DeMello signing a long-term deal. The AAV was a little bit high, but he's a new dad, so I really can't complain. You got to get that family money. And he's been a really important part of our team for several years now. Kind of the stabilizing force on the blue line next to Morrissey. So I was happy about that. I think the biggest thing was, if you've ever seen those obstacle course competitions, dodging big blocks, that's kind of what the Jets did. They didn't lock themselves into big money deals with Monahan and Toffoli. Lord knows they did try with Monahan. And, that as much as I really enjoyed Sean here, and I think he's a great player, I think, the Avs basically showed us what happens when you have skates made of lead. So Winnipeg kind of got skated in circles around, and I think the Jets they're just at a point where they need to move forward and transition to a speedier, faster, more vertical game. And I think that's where the Jets have tried to move. I will say, I am, Chris, very jealous. I'm a Shillington fanboy. There's the old joke. I'm not going to repeat the full one because this is a G-rated show. But everyone always remembers Barzal, Connor, and Shillington for Boston back in the day. And he was one of my most hyped prospects that I wish the Jets could have picked up. But then you guys also got Brandstrom, and I'm just like, these are the kinds of signings that I felt would have been perfect for the Jets. I was really hoping Winnipeg would do kind of like these low risk buys, but I mean, it is what it is. As long as they don't get like sucked into really stupid deals, that's probably the biggest thing. And now we're just waiting for Cole Perfetti to sign his extension, whether it's a bridge or a long-term deal. That I think is going to set the tenor for really the upcoming season. And based on the fact that he continues to show up to camp, he's doing media tours and stuff. For somebody who's in a contract dispute, you would not imagine that there's a labor disagreement. He is like ready to be a Jet, which, hey, given recent events with some of our prospects and stuff, that is pretty darn refreshing.
I will say this quick, Harrison. Don't give up hope on getting somebody like I think they're gonna be happy with Shillington, but someone like Brandstrom in a trade down the road, because the Avs went defense heavy in who they signed. And if they do get Landeskog and I'm blanking here, I'm sorry. If they get Landeskog and who's suspended? What? Nichushkin. Sorry, there's so many names I'm throwing out here. If they both come back, the Avs have a cap issue. And there might be some trades in that they need to unload a contract or two here. And some of these guys that they brought in excess might have to go out. So don't lose complete hope.
And I love what you said, Harrison. Sometimes doing nothing there is wisdom in avoiding the pitfalls as well. And, Predators fans, we've seen some big contracts that don't pan out, usually around the $8 million AAV value. I'm just throwing that number out. Horrible number. Joey, talk to us about the Stars offseason. What's the best move made down in Dallas?
Yeah, I do want to preface this. I don't think the Stars are falling off the planet by any stretch of the imagination. I don't want to be whining here since the Stars are at the top of the division. But I thought it was a disappointing summer in terms of expectations from Stars fans on July 1st. You are very disappointed in losing a guy like Chris Tanev, who just kind of came in and solved all of the Dallas Stars problems on the back end. Toronto gave him all the money in all the years. Dallas was never going to match that. So you knew he wasn't going to come back, and Dallas did get something for him. So I credit the Stars for at least getting something in return. But it was disappointing who they went out and got. I was hoping for the Matt Roys of the world. I was hoping for the Dylan DeMellos of the world, the Montours. I wanted one of those big fish. And they went out and got Ilya Lyubushkin and Matt Dumba, who are solid role players, and you need guys like that at the depth of your lineup. I don't know if they're necessarily going to thrive in what they could be thrown into, which could be a top 4 role here in Dallas, but hopefully they figure it out. And general manager Jim Nill came out today actually and said he thinks they're better from where they were day one last year. That remains to be seen. I'll say the biggest decision they made was going out and getting Casey DeSmith for a backup goaltender.
Yep.
They lost Scott Wedgwood, as you mentioned, and he's going to be phenomenal for Jussi Saros. Ottinger has been hurt in the past. They want to take some of the load off of him. Having a solid backup goaltender is huge. And Scott Wedgwood last season was an unsung hero for Dallas. He had to come in and play it over a month and a half as pretty much the solid number one since Ottinger was out with an injury. And he played admirably and was probably the reason the Stars ended up winning the division, because they just continue to churn out points with him in between the pipes. It's always important to have a tandem that can get the job done. And now Dallas has a couple of Americans. DeSmith is, look, not out of this world, but he's what you need in a backup. So I'm happy for that. I think that's an important decision.
Let's take a minute real quick. Let's do this rapid fire. I want you guys to each give me the name. I want a name of who is going to be a breakout player for your team. Who is a name everybody else in the Central should know and will know by the end of the season? Chris, who do you have?
I mean, people know his name, but as far as a breakout candidate, Casey Middlestat.
Casey Middlestat. Harrison,
Yep.
Yes.
who's going to be your breakout player?
Cole Perfetti.
Yeah. I mean,
I really like him.
Yeah.
That's time.
It's too easy.
Sure.
I'm sorry. That one's way too easy.
Yeah. Everybody's just sitting here waiting. Joey, who do you have? Who's the breakout candidate?
Well, if the Stars haven't hit enough on late round draft picks, I think this year it's going to be Maverick Bourque, the AHL MVP. He's going to get his first full season.
So
I think, I think he's going to have a big year. Hopefully, him and Stanky get reunited and they just go to town and in the big leagues now.
Can you guys suck at drafting for like 1 year, please? Like, it's really annoying how good you guys are at this, please.
Oh, man.
Step away from the table.
Yes, it took a while.
Yep. In Nashville, keep your eye on a 22-year-old named Luke Evangelista. You heard it here first. You will not hear it for the last time here as well. Look, our 4 teams were contenders last season, but we know a lot can change in 82 games. Coming up, we're going to tell you which of our 4 teams could be on the outside looking in when playoffs roll around in 2025. And we're going to tell you which team could take their place in the top of the Central. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. For NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll also get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Plus, it's not just the NFL you can bet on with FanDuel's easy-to-use app. Of course, as the NHL season draws near, you can place bets on point total over-unders like the ones we've discussed here today. That's FanDuel.com to get $200 in bonus bets when you place a $5 bet. FanDuel, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, frenemies, we have talked about success, but let's face the fact that in the Central Division, there is a chance that the season could maybe shake out a little differently than we think it will for our respective teams. So let's talk about which one of our 4 teams you think could drop out of the top of the Central Division. And because we are here for the spice, give us the name of the team that's going to replace them in the top 4. Joey, let's start with you. Which one of our teams is not going to make the postseason and who could take place in the top 4?
Well, I maybe have to start the onslaught here, but I'm going with the Jets. Okay, I was one of those guys last season. I was a big hater of Winnipeg. I was like, they don't scare me at all. There's no way they're going to do anything in the playoffs. And I was a huge hater. I really was. I think Winnipeg may regress this season, so I'm going to go with the Jets. I like Minnesota this season to replace them. Don't know why, but I really like what they have going on. Kaprizov is Kaprizov. Brock Faber has proven himself. I think they just stay healthy enough and they don't get off to an absolute abysmal start like they did last season. I think they're going to jump back into the playoff conversation. So I like Minnesota replace Winnipeg. I'll even do the rival for you, Harrison, just to twist the knife.
I just knew this was going to be a painful one. I just knew.
All right,
we save it for the end.
Yeah.
Chris, let's see. Who do you think might drop out of the top of the Central, and who could jump in?
I'm really glad Harrison kind of, said it himself early on, so I don't feel so bad.
We don't want to blindside him.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it's not to take away. Like, I think you guys have a goalie I would love to have.
Gosh,
so I'm gonna have like I'd love to have that guy. And he'll keep you in the standings and up there. But at the end of the day, I think that the teams ahead of them are it's a tall mountain to climb for them. So yeah, I think the Jets do kind of bow out here. I like Utah, guys.
Yeah,
I really like Utah. I think there's something like they've kind of gone about this the right way in terms of roster building. And I think there's something to be said for moving out of that Arizona catastrophe and going to a city that wants them. Let's say Arizona didn't. I don't want to say that the people there didn't want them, but playing in front of more than 300 people that are rooting for you now, I think that could carry them a little bit further. I do. Is it a slam dunk? By no means it is, but I think there's going to be a lot of improvement from Utah, and they could surprise a lot of people this year.
All right, Harrison, in your defense, you tell them who is dropping out of the top of the Central and who may be coming in.
That's not fair.
I'm giving you a chance.
Yeah,
I'm giving you a chance.
Baby.
if ever there was a question that was like so Jets coded, you know how like you walk in the classroom and the teachers they single out one kid and they know everyone's going to turn around and look at him.
Yeah.
That's kind of the Jets for this question. So I guess the natural question is, okay, assuming the Jets do get knocked out, who replaces them? I do think it's Utah, but not because I think any of the teams in the middle of the Central are that great. I think where the Jets kind of sit is in that mushy middle. These teams like Minnesota, Utah, they're decent. The thing is like either they're lacking offensive star power, they're lacking something a little bit up front, or maybe in the depth department. It's funny, Chris said, you have a goalie we'd love to have. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, you guys have like a third of a roster we'd love to have. So the Jets are kind of in that weird spot. I think the thing for Winnipeg that's a really big question is what happens with the rookies. They're a little vet heavy right now, and a lot of the guys, I love guys like Iafallo, Appleton, players like that, but the whole offseason they kind of talked about the Jets being 5 to 10% better. So this is where, kids like Brad Lambert kind of need to cut their teeth and take us to new heights. But I just don't think it's going to be this year. I do think, everyone's probably right about us getting knocked out of the top 4. But Utah, Minnesota, you could probably flip a coin. It wouldn't surprise me if the Blues do more double magic and somehow end up in that spot because it's St. Louis. They just don't die. I don't know what it is with that team. They
just don't.
Like if you said like the Preds are like one of those perennially there teams, the Blues are like the ones that just haunt your ghost. They just won't leave you alone.
Yeah. I am so relieved that you all said Winnipeg because I was afraid I was going to be the kid.
No.
That you all were saying.
So you let us all fall on the grenade first before
I surely did, y'all. I surely did. Thanks for that. Yeah. I'm a little nervous about Nashville. And here's what I would say. Mad respect to the Jets because I agree with you, Harrison. You have a goaltender that is a life flotation device for that team. And I think Connor Hellebuyck alone on the ice versus a team could keep Winnipeg in the mix. But I think Nashville's on that upward trajectory. So I'm going to say delicately and gently with respect, Winnipeg out. And I'm going all in on Utah, strictly on vibes, y'all.
Yeah.
Strict vibes. 100%. Clean slate, new city, new uniforms. Nashville has seen what Clayton Keller can do firsthand. He is just a killer for us. And we love Connor Ingram, former Nashville Predator, good goaltender. So I'm going to say Utah. Let's wrap this up. I want each of you to tell me rapid fire. What is the one thing that could derail your hopes for this season? Harrison?
Injuries. If we have like even a single injury, it's not going to be a fun time. But hey, you know what? Maybe we finally get like a lottery pick again. We always pick in like the middle of the pack, so that kind of explains why the Jets are where they are right now.
How about you, Chris? What could derail the Avalanche this season?
The depth not working out, and then they become just a very top-heavy team. And if Val Nichushkin does have another slip-up, he's suspended for a full year now. And that's not good. So those two things could quickly turn the tide for the Avalanche.
Yeah. Expectations high for Dallas, Joey. What could change that?
Yeah, not a lot of questions up front for the Stars. It has to be the defensive offseason acquisitions. If Lyubushkin and Dumba don't find their game here in Dallas, man, it'll be a tough time in front of Jake Ottinger most nights.
Yeah. Here in Nashville, it's going to be straight chemistry. We're bringing in top talent. We're bringing in talent who are a little PO'd. They've got a chip on their shoulder. All of that is good, but chemistry matters. And like I say, Steven Stamkos, first time with a new team in a new city. He's still trying to find the ketchup at Whole Foods. It's going to take some time to build that chemistry. So I think that's what we're going to have to watch. It is going to be an exciting division. These 4 teams have a lot to prove in a competitive Central Division. So we're going to have to keep our eye on how this all pans out. Some of us are going to look really, really smart at the end of 82 games, and some of us may not. We're going to have to see how that goes. But you heard our thoughts here, hockey fans. This is how your local experts see the Central shaking out. We're going to find out the reality over the next 82 games. It's going to be a great season. Good luck to all of you and your teams, of course. We will regroup for crossovers as we go. Want to thank everyone for making this episode of the 2024 Locked On NHL Season Preview your first listen today. For your second listen, catch the rest of the Central Division insight and every episode of the 2024 Locked On NHL Season Preview on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.